for joining us. Jimi Ryan on the Get It Done podcast. Today, I am honored to have a business partner of mine, someone that I work with on a regular basis, Cory Otto. He is a broker associate at EXP in central Wisconsin. Cory, welcome to the Get It Done podcast.
Jimmy, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great, brother. I'm really glad that we could do this.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to digging into your story, because I know that you've given me little bits and pieces, and I was like, whoa, let's save it for the pod, and then here we are talking about it. So to build this up, we like to. I mean, here you're a broker associate at EXP in central Wisconsin. That's great. Like that's a great spot to be in, or to aspire to be in. Not everybody gets to that level. But what we want to really build up is your come up story, how you began, how you were built in the beginning, which led you to be the man that you are today. So I use Elon Musk as an example. He goes from $1 million to $1 billion, and that's great. But what we're more focused on is the 0 to $1 million story. So Cory, we want to start out with, the best place to start is where you were born. So where were you born?
So yeah, I actually still live in the same city I was born. So I was born in Portage, Wisconsin. Grew up in Portage. Ended up going to Wisconsin Dells, water park capital of the world, and that's where I went to high school. And then I graduated high school from Wisconsin Dells. So I am one of those stories where I'm not far from where I started. I've grown, but I'm still in the same location.
Yeah, and we were just laughing about it before we hit record that, like, hey, you look like you're one of those up north Wisconsin realtors.
Yeah, it's cold out today, so I get to wear flannel and be comfortable and be warm. So
beautiful. So Portage, Wisconsin Dells. That's pretty much that is your story. Did you ever end up leaving at any point?
I have not. No.
That really is
Not
epic.
yet. I should say not yet is a better answer. Not yet.
Okay. I haven't convinced you to move to Florida yet. Well, that's fine. Well,
it was close when I thought we could do this in person. It might have been better this week, but my schedule was too busy, or I'd be down there with you where it's warmer and not wearing a flannel.
We'll do it again and with cocktails that time.
Yeah.
I want to start out with your story growing up. What was it like growing up in the Otto household?
Yeah, so I actually I grew up a farm boy. So the flannel northern Wisconsin joke. I actually grew up on a farm when I was younger. My dad, my uncle ran my grandparents' farm, and till I was about 9 years old, and then parents got divorced, and ended up going with my mom. We moved around a little bit, and then ended up in Wisconsin Dells, where I finished out high school.
So farm boy meaning what? Like,
yeah,
like
we had
just
cows.
work.
Yeah, cows and chores and crops and yeah.
I guess walk me through a day. So I mean, here I also grew up in Wisconsin, and I kind of know what it's like. But if you were to describe to me what a farm boy does on a daily basis, what would you walk me through a day of being a farm boy?
Yeah, so I really think there's two different types. There's professional farmers with good equipment and lots of land, and everything works, and they have systems and employees. We were poor farmers where my dad always liked to say like 80% mechanic work, 20% farming. So it was certainly an experience as far as just being able to work with what we had and the equipment that we had, and it meant a lot to my dad and my uncle. I mean, it was my grandparents' farm. It was passed down. That's how a lot of things go in Wisconsin, businesses, farming, passed down to generation. But so yeah, a country boy at that point. But then I went to the extreme, when my parents got divorced. I moved to the Wisconsin Dells, and when you were 14 in the Dells, it meant 2 summer jobs, 80 hours a week, and completely different environment, and big change and shift in where I started to even who I was and where I was once I was going to high school.
Well, it's funny to think that Wisconsin Dells is the downtown area where it's like, wow, this is I'm Mr. Big Time, Cory Otto over here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's cool, working 80 hours a week. At what point did your parents get divorced? Like, how old were you?
Yeah, I was 9, so early on, and then my younger brother and I went with my mom, and then my older brother stayed with my dad. And my parents, my grandparents, my dad, they still had the family farm. I mean, I would go there, for weekends or sometimes during the summer, but once I hit that working age of 14, in the Dells, it just meant part-time jobs, and it wasn't a big enough farming operation where I could, work the farm or anything like that. So, I mean, there was times where I did, help out, but it certainly wasn't, things shifted and I started working jobs.
Well, but you were 9 years old when it all happened, when it all went down. So, I mean, you kind of just went your own way, and then you were raised by your mom after that. Did your mom ever remarry, or what, or was she just a single mom?
Yeah, so for a while she was just a single mom. I mean, I went from there. I mean, it wasn't like that my dad was overly financially supportive. My mom struggled. We lived in low income apartments. I remember we lived in a trailer park up by the Dells, and our first winter there, my mom kind of got um, she bought a trailer and it was just junk, and we had to put plastic over the windows and blankets and huddle up to stay warm type of thing. So I mean, looking back and thinking about that and thinking through the process and through the battles, I mean, certainly grateful for where I'm at now.
I mean, to say the least, especially being in a cheap trailer in a Wisconsin winter. I mean, it's got to be just freezing cold, especially if you're putting the plastic over the windows.
Right.
What did your mom do?
So she actually worked. She ended up working in a factory, and worked on. They actually made signs and scoreboards. So, I mean, she was. That didn't happen right away. She had. She grew up. As a farmer's wife, stay-at-home mom, just taking care of our kid. Taking care of her kids. So it was certainly, tough for her looking back, to be able to go out on her own and support us, and have a place for us to live and so forth. So it wasn't right away. I mean, I think it was various odd type jobs, but then at one point, she got a steady job working, in a factory. And I mean, looking back, seeing my mom, in her 40s at that time, in Wisconsin summers, obviously just the opposite. And, factories aren't air conditioning or anything like that. So, I mean, I remember my mom working 10, 12-hour days overtime and, 100-degree, factory, trying to make a living.
That's insane. I mean, did you appreciate it back then, or was it kind of just like expected?
No, I mean, I really think that, I saw it. I saw what she was doing. I knew that it was for us. I knew that she was the one stepping up and, making sure that we were, could survive financially versus my dad. So I saw it at the time. And, looking back, I have a different, mindset of it, where I don't know that I appreciate it as much. I can certainly say, from my two older brothers that stayed, with my dad, and then myself and my younger brother, who went with my mom, I certainly think that it shows that your environment is important as to, succeeding or thriving, or just your mindset. Because, I thanked my mom recently, hey mom, I'm glad you left. Hey mom, I know that was tough, but I know you were doing the right thing for us. And, I'm grateful. She made a decision that was tough, but I know I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for that decision when I was 9 years old.
So did you add all that up like just recently, like just finally, like this is all like kind of coming together in a self-reflection? Like did you know your dad though at the time? And I guess where'd your brother end up?
So I have two older brothers, and they're still around the area. They chose different paths than my younger brother and I did, and I mean, we're still, we still talk. We're certainly not close, but you know, and who knows? I've had some conversations with them saying, I mean, I think there's some hard feelings because I think that they realize that if they would have, had different opportunities and different living situations, that things might have been better for them. So,
Were you better off in the crappy trailer apartment with the plastic windows?
I do. I feel I think that now. Maybe I didn't then, but I think it's made me want to do better for myself, and it's made me want to um, you know help other people that are in that similar situation, that want to put the effort into getting out of that situation. I'm passionate for that, and when somebody wants to put in the effort, um, whether it be another agent that wants to be on my team, whether it be a buyer that's looking to get into their first home. The person that wants to put in the effort, I'll help them get over any obstacle, and get to what they want, as long as they're willing to put in the effort. If you don't want to put in the effort, I put in the effort, I that that seeing your results from the effort that you put into your life, makes you feel better about what you've achieved.
Well, for sure. I'm trying to mute my microphone because I have this guy mowing the lawn just like literally right outside my place.
Yeah.
But I'm just
You
listening
have
to
lawnmowers there. I have snow blowers here, so that's a big. I'd rather hear the lawnmower than the snow blower.
well, to interject though about what you're saying, I think this is like you've literally hit on exactly why we are friends. Is that like, listen, like if you put in the effort, I will lead you to the closing. I will get you there. I promise. Just do what I say, okay? And then we'll bring you there. I'm gonna put in my effort. But if you're not gonna put in the effort, I'm out. And it's literally I'm that stark about it. And I think you are too. We're just like, look, if I can't do it for you, ultimately at the end of the day, but look, if you want out of it, I can help. Let's go.
And I had to grow into that mindset. I think when you're new, whether it be in lending, in real estate, in any types of sales jobs, you just get focused on, oh, I just want to make that sale. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll help them get their paperwork together. I'll follow up with them. I'll remind them, and I'll drive to their employer and get it myself, or I'll sit down with them and fill out the application for them. I mean, I think that's where I was that person too, because I'm like, oh, I just want this person to get a house. But, you just realize that, you don't want to just absolutely lead somebody, but I'll tell you what, I'll come beside somebody and help them through any obstacle, side by side, and get to the finish line together.
For sure. And you've done it before too. So you've done it, like you're commenting on the facts that like, yeah, I've driven to the person's house every time I needed something, or, and it wasn't on them to email it to me or whatever. They couldn't figure it out. Whatever. How many times have you just like put in all of the effort to where you're just like, listen, you either want this or you don't. So, I mean, it's kind of nuts, the different mentalities that you get as you become way more experienced in doing this. But so I want to go back to the time that you referenced the most, and that's this apartment, this crappy apartment. And were you at the time also working, not apartment, I'm sorry, trailer, and plastic over the windows? Were you already working 80 hours a week at this point, like in the summer, or was this like, at what point are you even allowed to do that? Isn't it like 12?
Yeah, so I mean, things were a little bit less strict back then. I mean, I started out with the paper route, 12 years old, and then 14 was the magic number for most of the restaurants and amusement parks and stuff in the Dells. So yeah, in particular, we're talking about the time in the trailer. Yeah, I was 14 and working two jobs, and I can really say, and so it's out in the country too. And I can really say I rode my bike, 7 miles into town and to work. And my first, my first job. Here's the funny one because actually the flannel comes back around. My first job was at Paul Bunyan's, so it was a family style restaurant, and the uniform was actually flannel shirts.
Oh my God.
So I was a busboy, riding my bike to Paul Bunyan's in my flannel shirt, working in the Dells in the summer. So that was my first big summer job.
You couldn't get more stereotypical Wisconsin than that.
Right,
Like,
right.
it's just, that's hilarious. And Paul Bunyan's, is that place even around? That isn't around anymore. That
So
can't be.
no, they're actually still around. So they have a Paul Bunyan's in the Dells, and they have a Paul Bunyan's up north in Minocqua, and they've actually expanded it. They actually do like an amusement aspect to it now, and have log rolling and tree climbing and stuff right in the same area as the restaurant.
I never knew Paul Bunyan's was such a success. I have to check it out.
Right.
I don't think I've ever been. Maybe I've had to have. I feel like
No,
I
you would remember. You sit on wooden benches at a table, and everybody's wearing flannel, and they bring you like stacks and stacks of pancakes for breakfast. Yeah, plug out
not,
that guy to Paul Bunyan.
not something that you forget. So were you also going? I mean, 80. So it's just the summer. So
Right.
in high school? You weren't obviously working 80 hours a week.
No, so that was back when before the Dells was like a year-round place. So it was totally, um, Memorial Day through Labor Day, strictly summer. Very few restaurants and places and were even open. It just totally shut down during the wintertime. This was back in early 90s, late 80s, and yeah. So it's not like that I was doing that while I was going to school.
Yeah, for sure. Well, talk about that time in your life. I mean, did your mom ever end up? I think you're going to say it, but I mean, did she ever end up remarrying at later on in that point? Did money ever become not an issue?
Hmm.
I guess, did you ever move out of the trailer?
Yes, my mom did get married, and you know, we moved up a little bit. It was from one trailer to another, but it was an upgrade. um, so
I mean, I'm asking, I
yeah,
mean,
no, I, and it isn't. I try to think about it as I'm saying it because I don't want to be like, oh, living in a trailer, but that's why I was really expressing it in the beginning. Is this wasn't a trailer. This was like a box that 1970s, and we sometimes our door would fall off. So but yeah, things, the financial situation improved slightly, and just then, truly the first one was, a small place, not many friends out in the country, and then we upgraded and moved in town, and so I had a little bit bigger friend circle, and just a little bit more opportunity.
well, that's sweet. So what was high school like? A lot of times people have major defining moment in high school where like they were going at one way and then they went another. Did you have that in high school or was it later?
Yeah, I had that. So prior to, so I mean, I can look back. I mean, I'll just put the disclaimer, that the stepdad situation wasn't great. Um, we butted heads, but I can look back and say, yeah, that was a defining moment too, because even though I was supportive of my mom and was grateful for what she was doing and how she was providing for my brother and I also was like, yeah, you can't tell me to go to school. I don't want to go to school today. She left at 6 in the morning. The school bus came at 7:30, and she was gone, and most of the time I didn't get on it. So, um, so
So I
yeah,
mean, basically, so what you're saying is that, like, look, I didn't get along with my stepdad, but I also, I was not really the best kid.
yeah. Prior to my mom getting remarried, when it was just me and my brother and her. Yeah, I didn't do it disrespectfully, and I didn't lie about it. I just be like, "Hey, mom, I didn't go to school today, and I don't know if I want to go tomorrow." I don't really care for it. It's not me. So
Wow, that's so funny. What year was this when you started to be like,
yeah, this has been my freshman year in high school.
wow,
Yeah.
wow? Did you get like suspended for that? I mean, don't you get written up for stuff like that?
I think the only thing that, I don't remember the specifics because I don't remember being suspended. So I feel like that, my mom was like, he's sick a lot. And, my mom kind of covered for me at the time. Yeah, it changed. I mean, the next, I think, defining moment was, you know, I wish I was going to look for a picture and I just couldn't find it. I'll have to find it and we'll post it later in the comments. But I'm telling you that long blonde hair down past my shoulders. And then I got the brown tinted glasses. So long blonde hair all over, you know, uh, brown tinted glasses. And, my AC/DC t-shirt was, and and the reason I remember this, so this, go ahead. I see you have a
Well,
question.
no, you leave nothing to be wanted. I mean, you are pro status. I mean, you got it. I mean, that's the
And
look.
the reason that this is ingrained in my mind is because the picture is significant. Because then what happened is my freshman year of high school, they actually started a brand new program. It was called the Police Explorers Program. So Wisconsin Dells Police Department started this program, the Police Explorers Program, and I joined it. And it was like we had meetings, a couple times a month. We did training. It was all kids it was kind of a Boy Scout type theme, subsidiary of the Boy Scouts. And then, the goal after you go through this training was you actually got to go on ride-alongs. And the reason I remember this picture is because in the beginning, even though it wasn't like the classic plastic ID cards that we have now in most businesses or things like that, that is me joining the Police Explorer program with my long blonde hair. And they actually, because they thought it would be funny, so we're actually standing in front of the numbers, like the height numbers, like you would when you get arrested. So that's why this picture is so vivid in my head of the transformation time period, because I'm joining the Police Explorer program, flunking out of school, skipping school, not going to school, long hair, defiant, and here I am, weeks later. It's like, shave my head and going to school, and we had grades. We had a minimum grade requirement. So I mean, I can say this program, was like my second save in life. My mom, leaving my dad was step one, became defiant. And then the second, defining moment of joining this program, I can look back now and, I've met the officers, or, I've stayed in contact with some of them. And I'm like, a few years ago, one of the officers that started it was retired, and I went to his retirement party, and I'm like, man, I owe you where I am right now. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has said this to you, if you realize the significance you played, but you changed the direction in my life.
What was his name?
So there's two officers. One was Jed Seidel, and the other one that started the program was Brian Landers. And he actually went on to he was the mayor of Wisconsin Dells. So.
I mean, that's pretty cool. That's really epic. So it's the Police Explorers, and I mean, you weren't planning this at all, and like these guys just basically spoke life to you.
Right. Yeah, it was. I think my original childhood dream, I think I was going to be a truck driver. That was my big plan originally. And this just really, came out of nowhere, and just, an opportunity. And at one point, I guess looking back or thinking of as I'm talking out loud, my mom did through one of her part-time jobs. My mom actually worked for the Red Cross, and then actually was a volunteer medic on the ambulance. So I know that played a little bit of part into it about just the first responder mindset.
So it already felt right basically to you by the time they were actually pitching it to you. It just felt comfortable and you just went with it. It just totally changed you.
Right. Yeah.
That's really epic. So then at that point, when is this like 17, 18, or is this?
So yeah, I joined when I was 14, and I was in it throughout the entire high school. Most Friday night. I mean, this is kind of funny. Most Friday nights, kids were going out and parties and stuff, and I was like getting on my uniform and riding along in the squad car. So, and that's how I spent my entire high school. And
Wow, that was so good for you to do
right,
that. I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
and I mean, what would you see with them? What would they let you see?
Yeah, everything. I mean, this one's tough because we're talking, 30 years. And one of my very first ride alongs, there was actually a major accident by on Highway 16 by the Dells Drive-In Theater. And it ended up being I was a freshman at the time, ended up being a senior, was actually killed at that intersection in a car accident. So, I mean, I'm 14 years old, and one of my very first ride alongs, death and destruction, and somebody I ended up knowing. So um looking back, I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, I don't know how that didn't change my mind. Like, no way, this isn't for me. I don't want to see this. I don't want to go through this.
That's
So
nuts. I mean, wow. Yeah, and like your first day, did anything else like that happen like ever again, or was it
oh
like?
yeah, I mean, the Dells was, absolutely, I would say 20 years ago, it's certain they've changed their image and things have improved, now to like more of a family friendly type destination where, 20 years ago, it was like partying and drag racing and speeding and craziness. I mean,
Oh, really?
oh yeah,
Actually I forget that.
right,
That's
right.
I really do forget that they spent probably $100 million advertising how friendly it is to families.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah,
Well,
I was in. I remember another incident. I mean, I don't even. We'll have to. Hopefully the statute of limitations is gone by and this person's retired. But when I'm sitting in the passenger seat and an officer's driving, and somebody did something in front of us, and he took off running. And I'm sitting here in a squad car, I think 14 or 15 years old, in the middle of downtown Dallas, 4 lanes, Broadway. And, he calls back on the radio and is like, hey, Cory, bring the squad over here. I caught him, So I'm like, 14 years old and getting, sworn in to, drive a squad car. And,
well, what
just,
else are you gonna do? I mean, you got to drive the car,
right,
and you're a
right.
farm
Yeah,
boy who wants to be a
yeah.
trucker. So you're like, tally
Yeah.
ho!
Right. Jump in, let's go.
That is awesome. So, I mean, how many? There has to be countless epic stories like that. Did you ever have to drive the car again? I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
don't.
just.
I think that the next time after that, I had my license, and it was, even though the Dells is a big name city, it was at the time it was a small, group of officers, 8 to 10 officers, and there was nights where, it actually led on to, that was my first job. So then, 18 years old, as soon as I graduated high school, because I had all the training and stuff, just hands-on type stuff, I actually got hired my first summer. Then I was writing parking tickets, and I was a dispatcher. So straight out of high school, I continued to work for the Wisconsin Dells Police Department as dispatcher and parking ticket enforcement. So
That is that's really nuts because nobody I shouldn't say nobody, but there are not a lot of people that chose law enforcement and like and were becoming a police officer that eventually became realtors. I don't know. I just don't think there's a big group of
right,
people that are like that. What so walk us through your career. So I mean you walk through you're giving parking tickets. And I
right.
mean
I tell you what, I ended up actually going into law enforcement full time, but I never have met, and at the time they were $3, the $3 parking tickets, and I'm 18 years old. walking around giving parking tickets, and they're yellow, they're bright yellow. And it was the rule, once you started one, you couldn't let somebody talk you out of it, because they would, ultimately come running over to the car. And, it was tough. I've never seen so many people get upset over $3. Looking back, I just don't, like, what is this? You're upset over a $3 parking ticket. But, that grew me up quick. I mean, that taught me how to deal with people and situations and stress. And, so yeah, from there,
Did you ever give it away? Did you ever not finish it?
Again, I think those people are retired, and I'm an agent now, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I was a softie. It was tough. If you had a good story, or a lot of it, the sad part was, a lot of it was actually employees, because the parking was at such premium there, that you'd have business owners or employees that just didn't have anywhere to park. So then they would come out and they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, well, I won't really give you a true one, but I'll put one on your windshield. That way, the next guy after me working the second shift, he'll think you already have one, and you'll just be covered for the day. So, I mean,
that's kind of how it should work, though. I mean, come on, the employees shouldn't be getting a thing. But I mean, also, how else are they gonna get there? What else is the solution?
Yeah. Now it's changed. I mean, and then, like here's the craziness of this one. So then it was tickets, but then twice a week I actually had to empty the meter. So this wasn't the automatic credit card app situation that they had, that they have now. This was literally, I had a cart with wheels on it. It was like a safe. I'm rolling down open. There's like 250 meters at the time. You open each one up. You take out a little, like cup size that's got change in it, and you dump it in, and you wheel the cart. And
would you have to then count it all, or
no, you would take it to the bank, and wheel it in the back of the bank and give it over to them. But I actually did. This was the worst. I actually tipped it over once and spilled change all over the middle of the road when I was crossing the road, and it was just awful looking back.
Oh my God.
That ended my parking enforcement career. But
here you are, this evil parking, your meter maid, and like, I'm sure nobody helped you. I'm sure it was like, yeah, it serves you right.
Yeah, the good thing was, it was like the police department was close to the bank. It was right across the street, and that happened to be what I was doing. And luckily, at the time, other officers came out, and we got it scooped up before it was too much of an embarrassment.
So how'd you survive this and keep on going into law enforcement? I mean, like,
yeah.
And do you have to go to school for it? Is it like something where it's like you have to, like, here, you can't just go to high school. You got to get there's some sort of formal education afterwards. Like, there's a police academy or whatever.
At the time, it was, I think they call themselves Madison College now, but it was Madison Area Technical College. And I worked part-time as a dispatcher, and then went to school in Madison for just under 2 years.
Awesome. And then after that, you become police officer.
So yeah, I actually didn't end up finishing school. I got an offer and an opportunity with the Columbia County Sheriff's Department, which is the county that Wisconsin Dells and Portage is in. So I actually got a job offer to work as a jail officer, correction officer, deputy at the Columbia County Jail.
Jail life, how was that?
Yeah, I tell you, I could never go back, not even to visit. It was tough, because I mean, you were, even though you were an employee and got to leave at the end of the night, you were in jail for 10 or 12 hours a day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and it was tough. It was a good learning experience, people skills, and I mean, I went from, back then, I was making, I seriously part-time dispatch in the Dells, and that parking enforcement was like $6-8 an hour. And I was already living on my own. And I'm like, looking back, I'm like, gosh, I don't know how I survived off of $8 an hour.
All right.
So
yeah.
Then, when I went to the jail, the next thing you know, and that was just part-time at with the dispatching and parking enforcement, I go to the jail, full-time job with overtime like right away, and $16-17 an hour after making $6-8 an hour is like, oh my gosh, I've made it, this is
Yeah,
great.
right.
And so I actually stopped going to college because that was really the opportunity at that time. Like, hey, I'm part-time, part-time work, going to college full-time. And then that was my decision of, hey, do I keep, going to college, and keep the part-time job, or do I take the full-time job? I'm like, oh man, I just want the full-time job. So.
I mean, it makes sense, especially for 18. I mean, you can't say no to that. That really is stupid, crazy money back then. I
Yeah,
mean,
that would have been 1997. Was my September 97 was I started working in the jail.
what did you, I guess, what do you remember the most about it? In particular, like, what do you hate the most about it? I guess that would make you say, I would never go back.
I mean, I think this, looking back, the system's broken. There was, I mean, at the time, it was a job, I had it in my head, these people deserve to be here. I don't know why they're here. I wasn't involved with them getting here. My job is to make sure that they, walk the straight and narrow, no fighting and, no craziness going on, and, keep order. So, it's looking back. I mean, I certainly think that there's room for change, and there's room for, educating or stopping it before somebody gets there. I mean, I can look, and this will go back, but I can look and say, hey, by just because a couple of people in my life that helped me make that shift, I was on the right side of the bars. I mean, I was close to, and if I would have continued on the path that I was, uh, I could have just been on the other side, not wearing the
Right.
uniform instead of the brown uniform, the blaze orange uniform with stripes on it. So,
And you'd
uh,
still have your big long blonde hair and your big glasses, but
right.
you just, yeah, being behind bars. I mean,
Mhm.
you're right. It's kind of nuts how that works out. I mean, it really is. It's just, you had to make the choice though, still, I mean, it's not just like, you're blessed with this just opportunity and then you don't take it, and I'm sure maybe that happens, but um that's crazy. So what did you ever become, like a police officer, or what did you end up doing from there?
Yeah, so I actually was working full time there. Ended up working in the jail for 4 years. During that time, this would have been 2000, 2001. I actually ended up going to Black Hawk Tech. They had a part-time academy. Usually it was a full-time academy where you just went 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 10, 15, 20 weeks. This particular academy at Black Hawk Tech was set up for people just similar to me, where they're already working a full-time job in corrections in the jail, and then want to be a police officer. So yeah, for a year, where it could have been finished in 10 weeks at the time, I went 2 days a week for a year. I was still living in the Dells. It was literally 100 miles one way. Get up at 5:30 in the morning after I worked till midnight. Drive down to Black Hawk Tech. There was another officer that was doing it with me, so we met halfway and carpooled. But yeah, 100 miles one way, and then usually both of us had to work again, the night shift after that. So
Did anything crazy ever happen there, by the way, at the jail, like where you had to like really regulate? I'm sure it happened all the time. I mean, or I guess, did it happen all
yeah,
the time?
so some people think, oh, it's a small town county jail, but at the time in 2001, the state prisons were overflowing, and they were contracting with county jails, paying the counties to house state and federal inmates in the jail, and the county was making money doing that, and able to grow staffing wise. So yeah, it wasn't the intoxicated driver or the domestic; it was murders. Big time criminals of from all throughout the state, And I mean, we had fights. I mean, there was sometimes it was, we had knockdown, drag out fights, breaking up fights. And, now where staffing is like, 10, 15 people. There's sometimes that we ran with, 3 or 4 people, and you only had, and people had to be in the control pod. There was sometimes that it was just me and another, deputy that would go in and break up these fights. So it was crazy. Looking back, I'm like, oh, it's crazy. But
but you just ran in there. Did you ever get like punched, or did anybody ever?
Here's what I learned, and so I'm a big learner and listener from experienced people, whatever profession you're in, or just if it's a person that's older than you and has been through more things than you, just listen. And I truly believe in the beginning, what saved me is they're like, hey, of the local people and people in general, you have to treat these inmates with respect. And when shit hits the fan, they know that you're a respectable officer and they know that you treat them with respect. You're going to have inmates that'll back you because they know that you're a fair, respectful person. So I was in situations where, that came to fruition where, because of how I treated everybody and fairly and respectfully, I'd actually have an inmate that's, stepped in and helped me in a fight situation with another inmate. So,
Jeez.
yeah.
Insane. So, I mean, traumatic, and you become a police officer still.
Yeah,
I want more.
I think it was really just bullheadedness. I'm like, hey, I decided I'm going to do this. And there was, if we had hours and hours, and as I'm talking about, I never expected to spend this much time on it, but it wasn't just, okay, this, I got passed over. Many. I mean, it was like a program of, okay, hey, I didn't start the jail because I wanted to be a correction officer. I started working in the jail because it was the way to get to be,
Right.
road cop. And, and I thought, oh, as soon as I go to the academy and get certified, I'll get the next spot, and I got passed over and several times.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm like, hey, this is my goal. I don't want to be, a jailer forever. I just started this as a stepping stone. So I pushed forward and, I mean, I was close. It actually took me, I just had this, I just shared this story with another agent. This was last week, giving her another analogy about, it was during one of my recruiting speeches where, it's finally what happened was I applied for Dane County Sheriff's Department, got offered a job there, and they had a little bit system. I still would have had to work like 4 or 5 years in the jail, but at least they had a seniority type system where it wasn't an interview process. It was, okay, you put a certain amount of years in the jail, your years in the jail going on. It's, a mathematical equation as to the next opening. So I actually applied for Dane County Sheriff's Department, and then they started doing my background investigation and offered me the job. And, the sheriff called me up and said, hey, you start Monday, you're on the road, congratulations, but you have to tell those people no today. So, it was a little squabble between the two counties, but it got me the job.
Wow. So, and you're on the road, like meaning like you have a squad car, you're a full blown police officer.
Right. Yeah. Deputy sheriff, full blown police officer, take home squad, 720 square miles, wild, wild west.
So I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, are you still like a newbie? Because you're almost not. Like, listen, man, I've been in the jail, okay? Like, or are you still a newbie? Like, are you treated like that when you start out as a police officer?
I was a lot thinner, had a lot of body mass. Wasn't very confident, still had a, significant amount of acne on my face, even at, 20 years old. And, there were some times where I was not taken seriously, but, I powered through that. I mean, yeah, it's not like, hey, you're an officer, you got a gun, everybody's just going to listen to you. You had to earn respect. I mean, You had to, I really learned and have carried it over into the rest of my life of it's how you talk to people. It's how you communicate. It's respect, even if they don't have it coming, and there's different ways to give respect to somebody to, accomplish the goal that you're, working towards or dealing with them about.
Yeah, for sure, brother. I think that you apply that for sure in what you do today. I mean, maybe it really is. It's just, it's how you say it, how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You can be a police officer and tell somebody, something that they don't want to hear, and you can be a jerk about it, or you can be just respectful, and I mean, it's still the same bad stuff, but how they're going to react is different, especially in real estate. I mean, my God, you tell somebody one thing wrong and they freak out. But if you just say like, look, I know it sounds crazy, but not a big deal. We're going to handle it. And then you say it.
Right.
Is it that same kind of thing? Or is it or is it a little bit different than that because it's.
Yeah, I really think everything is about delivery system. You can, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and pretend that that there's not an issue or there's not a hoop we have to jump through or a problem that we have to solve. But, I really, when I have to address like something like that now in real estate is I have a couple of solutions already in mind, and deliver solutions as the same time that I'm delivering the problem of, hey, yeah, this is going to extend things. This is going to take longer. This is another hoop you have to get. This is a letter you have to get from your, brother's, uncle's, mother's, cousin to, why you have this money in your account and, it's not seasoned. And, but as long as you are coming up with solutions at the same time that you're coming up, with telling them what the problem is. And there's sometimes where they don't even know. I can, get the solution figured out for them and just tell them, hey, here's the solution. Oh, I didn't know there was a problem. Yeah, it's solved. Let's go.
Right. Right. And then it's done and nobody has to worry about it. And like it's mostly about just leadership and just being ahead of it. And that's just something that you do. Going back to police, is there anything else you'd add to your story being a police officer that
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just any epic stories that you have on being a police officer?
Yeah, I tell you what, we could do a whole nother podcast on just stories.
Give a highlight.
I wish I would have.
One or two.
Yeah.
Things.
So here's the biggest one that sticks in my head when you say that. I chose to work primarily the night shift because that's just where the action was. I was
and you wanted that. You want the action.
And,
sure.
I liked working at night. But the downside to that is, we're talking 720 square miles, and there was some times where your backup was 20 minutes away, and that's if they were hauling. And if all of us got busy at the same time, it was tough. I mean, you really had to learn to, control a situation because, your backup might not be right there. So I was working a night shift. I at some point switched from like a 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift. They called that the power shift. I was like an overlapper. And the good part about that, because I will say, and this has bled over into real estate, I'll say it. I'll use the word. I was an overtime whore. I just could not turn down overtime. We had a book, we had, supervisors. I was on like the call list of like, hey, we can either make 10 calls and get 9 no's and 1 yes, or we can just call Cory. He'll come in. He loves to work. He'll work late. He'll come early. He'll work his days off. Let's call Cory.
Yeah,
so the good thing about 7 to 3 is that if it was busy at 3 a.m., I was still an extra car at that point. But if it was busy at 3 a.m., then I would get to hold over till 4, 5, 6 in the morning and be on overtime. So we were actually busy that night. There was actually a burglary in progress out by Cascade Mountain Ski Hill and one of the gas stations out there. So all the cars were over there, like chasing, burglars through the woods. And we used to call it was called the holding center. So there was a certain city or proximity that, was, you were in the center of the county. You were just kind of playing defense at that time, ready to get the next call. So I'm holding center, and
Nice.
domestic situation comes out. I'm like 10 minutes away from it. Nobody is available. There's another car that's coming, like, is a half hour behind me. And domestic situation, it's bar time or past bar time, 3 a.m. It's it obviously involves alcohol, and boyfriend girlfriend fighting. They said that there's other family members there, and that their kind of line kind of went dead. I don't know what I'm really getting into. Pull up in the driveway, and there's a mattress on fire in the driveway, and I'm thinking, like, okay, mattress on fire, bar time. I know what started this. Holy smokes! There's a mattress on fire, and there's broken glass. There was blood. The victim was outside. She had called her mom. Her mom was there, and they're like, "Yeah, he's inside. He's drunk. He doesn't have a shirt on. He's just crazy. He's going crazy." And so I'm like, "Oh, well, let's go." And I'd called, and because I actually, the dispatch supervisor used to enjoy my conversations on the radio. So sometimes after like an incident, she would burn a CD for me, and I'd have, like, because you don't pay attention to what you're saying there on the radio when you're in the midst of it.
Well,
Um,
right. You're just
but
reporting.
right. So the mom's like, "Yeah, he's inside," and I called on my radio, and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna need a second car," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm 20 minutes away. I'm going. You know, I'll be there as soon as I can." And so I start walking towards the house, and this is the guy's mom actually stops me, and she's like, "Oh, I can't let you go in there by yourself." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's mom's telling me that I can't go into this house by myself." And so I call on the radio, "Hey, I need backup. I'm going in." And so he comes to the front door, opens the front. I say zero to him, so I'm mic'd up and I'm recorded. I say zero to him, and he just, you're shirtless, bloody, drunk, and swinging your arms. Taser time. And so I just tased him and put him in the squad. And then I just called and said, "Hey, the other officer that's coming." I'm like, it's done. It was like start to finish, like 45 seconds. Okay, mattress burned in the driveway, mom screaming, guys bloodied up. There's no time for conversation here. We just went right to taser, and we got to just get it done and move on. So
Oh my God. And he comes at you swinging. So like,
oh yeah, at the front. Yeah, before I get him at the front door, he comes out swinging, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not talking. Let's go." I might have said, "Yeah, back up, down, something."
what ended
But
up happening? What?
it was just typical. I mean, it was just, after, after midnight, nothing good happens. It really it really doesn't. There's not nice people after midnight. People don't stop and say hi to you and, "Hey, how's it going? Can I shake your hand and thank you for your service?" I mean, it's our motto at the time was, "You call, we haul." So that, we had a little, there's a group of us deputies that worked the same shift, same rotation, had a great supervisor, and we just didn't mess around. It wasn't, we weren't out there trying to, counsel and fix and repair stuff. It was literally, "Hey, we got to take you to the jail because we got another one waiting," and it was just constant.
That's kind of nuts.
Oh,
To have that perspective too. I mean, what else are you gonna do? And like, we're okay. So why did you leave?
so I
Do
mean,
I dare ask?
it just ended up being. I mean, I do want to switch that. I didn't always stay that way. I did pull a stint where, and I have great. I think that to change the world, it's investing in kids, investing in the youth, investing in teenagers, saving them, helping them before they get in way deep. So at one point in my career, I actually got an opportunity to be more like a community officer. Worked in the school in the summertime. Again, I was, I got to quit. Realtors, we eat out too much. I was like 60 pounds lighter 5 years ago, and I could run. And I chased people and caught them. Now I'm like, whatever. But So I was able to play that role of, playing basketball with the kids in the park in uniform. I mean, there's a video of me out there. We had the Partyville, the small community I worked in. They had the Watermelon Festival. So there's a uniform of me out there on YouTube, Deputy Cory doing the hokey pokey in uniform at the Watermelon Festival. So I did, I was able to, working midnights, it just felt like that you were just swooping people up and taking them to jail, where I did throughout my career have, different opportunities where, I was able to really make a difference in some people's lives. And I still have it. I've had, 20 some year olds come up to me, hey, you remember me? So that was my, I know when everybody says not my first name, but they just say, hey, Otto, I'm like, oh boy, this is somebody when I used to be a cop. So they're calling me Otto and not my first name. So it's either going to be really good or really bad. So, and I've had kids come up to me, or 20-year-olds come to me like, man, you made a difference in my life. You listened to me, or you encouraged me, or you helped me out. So being able to look back and see that, knowing that I made a difference in some kids' lives. I mean, I had one positive, that came that I have to share, because there's so many negatives, and I try not to focus on those.
Well, right. I know. I'm more so going for the epic craziness, but you have that, but you also have this. I mean, this is super cool. I mean, I can't wait to look up the hokey pokey and you do it. But go ahead. So what was this one thing?
Yeah, right before I finished my career, I got a call of a suicidal person, and he called and he was ready. He was done, going through a lot, struggling with some drugs, and said, hey, I'm going out to my garage. I'm hanging myself. I just want you guys to come find me before my girlfriend gets home and finds me. So I'm like, oh boy. And, I went there by myself, and pull up, and I pull up in the driveway, and this guy stringing himself up in the garage, standing on a ladder. And so, I'd start conversation with him. I had, ran into him once before, and he actually shared the same first name as me. So I'll just give that much, so that kind of resonates. But, so I was able to have a little bit of dialogue with him, and he's just like, hey, I'm struggling. I'm not going to put anybody else's pain. And he jumped, and he hung himself. And, I was still there by myself, grabbed a knife, climbed the ladder, cut him down, and brought him back to life. And, I thought he was going to be grateful, but he wasn't, and then we fought. And, the struggle, because he was pretty determined, and, but able to get him into custody, took him, got him some mental health, committed, got him some help. He, went into a recovery program, and then he actually went on to get some counseling training, and he's actually mentoring and training other mental health people struggling with mental health issues and drug problems. And after I was done, he called me up, and he said, hey, let's go get breakfast. I think I owe you breakfast. And we met for breakfast, and he actually asked me to be his best man in his wedding.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you do it? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a success story. I mean, not just the success isn't saving his life; it's saving his life, giving him another opportunity. He's helping people. Now he's saving people. So
yeah, man.
And then I don't have it on today, but I'll get it. Trying to get too choked up when I save it. But he bought me a watch, and had it engraved and said, "I am here because you were there." So that's the story I want to, as far as law enforcement and the craziness. That's the story I want to remember and resonate. Excuse me, I gotta plug in. Should have did this before.
No, you're good. Well, brother, that's honestly, that's a beautiful way to end your law enforcement career talk. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. You literally saved his life. And then how many people's lives is he saving? I mean, what a story. He literally was dead. He was like literally required somebody to literally save him.
Yeah.
And then he fought you. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
that's so insane. Could you imagine? Did you ever, I'm sure you have, does he give speeches about this? Does he like give a talk about
Yeah.
his,
So we haven't yet. You know, I think he's more of a one-on-one person. I think he shares the story
yeah.
one-on-one. You know, I hope there's a day that that we can, you know, share it together and you know, help people and make a difference together. But I think that, you know, in his giving back is one-on-one, and you know, being there as somebody that has overcome the struggle of drug abuse, and you know, but I love telling the story. I mean, especially the success part of it, and the, you know, still, I mean, we're talking, you know, 6-7 years ago, and you know, I get choked up in tears, you know, thinking
I
about
bet.
it.
Yeah. I could only imagine. I mean, it's such an epic thing to be a part of. I want to shift gears to how you became a realtor, because
Yeah.
nobody
So
ever decides this. I always prep it with that. Nobody ever is like, yep, I'm a little boy or girl, I want to be a realtor, or mortgage loan officer, or insurance, or financial planner. How did it happen for you?
yeah, I think it was. So there was a job that I missed in between there. There was a year time period where I managed some condos in the Dells, property management, kind of in between, you know, my high school year and before I was old enough to start at the police department. So I think I got the fever kind of back then about real estate, and you know, we, you know, managed condos. We, you know, rented them out weekends. They didn't call it VRBO back then, but yes, you know, basically that's what it was. And you know, just that somebody could own a condo in a tourist vacation city and have their mortgage paid for and put money in their pocket if they were doing it right, you know. So I know that played in. There were some other officers. I think that just in general, because you are able to retire so early. I mean, I started at 20 in law enforcement. I could have full retirement at 50. And you know, so you always start thinking of, you know, whether it's a carpenter or you know, a lot of guys do like some type of trade or something that they move on to, collect retirement, and then do some type of building remodeling trade. I'm like, yeah, I can't. I don't. I can barely read a measuring tape sometimes. I got the digital ones now, so I'm like, yeah. But within that, we had a group of us that we worked on each other's houses. So we didn't do it for flipping at the time. It was like, hey, we're cops. We don't have tons of extra money. Let's buy a house that we're eventually going to live in. Get it cheap, fix it up, live in it. Maybe get some equity, sell it, do it again. And we all kind of work together and be like, hey, you know, I'll help you. You know, we had like a rotation where we're just constantly doing that because, you know, giving back to the other person, knowing that at some point it would be your turn for the help. So, you know, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do after law enforcement? All right, I want rental properties. That's the way to go. Residual income. I mean, I was a cop, but I mean, at night I like read books and listened to podcasts, and you know, I'm like, oh, I can't do this forever, because I loved money. I loved opportunity. I saw what opportunity money would do for you. But what I was doing is, it was like nights, weekends, holidays, days off. I mean, I had the record one year, it was in the paper. You know, I worked so much overtime, I made more than the sheriff one year. You know, and then everybody's like, oh my gosh, you can't do that again.
That's
Because
so funny.
overtime adds up, you know. And
Well, right.
I had a system so crazy that, you know, instead of taking vacations, I would take vacation days and then come into work and work boat patrol on overtime and get like 3.5 times or something, because I was really on vacation, you know, but I was working. So I'm like, but that was my goal. I mean, I just wanted to save things off. You know, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. You know, Dad is awful. You know, there's, you know, don't get in over your head. And I saw it with other, you know, officers that, you know, new trucks, new campers, you know, four-wheelers, houses, swim pools. You know,
Right.
I bought a $60,000 foreclosure that I'm living in, you know, and that's what it took. That's what it took. It took me planning this. So at first, so I actually got my license in 2008. Of course, I picked the probably the absolute worst time for anybody to start in real estate, 2008. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting my license.
Brother, I was October of 2007.
Yeah.
I remember it like it was yesterday. So you started at that time, and it was starting in 2008. I mean, you kind of writing was on the wall, like you knew in 2008.
You know, I think that's kind of what intrigued it too. I knew there was foreclosures coming up. I'm like, you know, I had looked at some myself. I was using another agent. You know, I'm like, oh, I just cut out the middleman, and I'm just going to get my license and, you know, buy foreclosures, buy investment properties, have rentals, tough this cop thing. I mean, I still liked being a cop at that time when I got my license, so I kind of gave that away. I ended up not staying that way, but you know, I'm like,
By the way, I'm
okay,
a cop, so don't mess around. You know, I mean, like,
yeah. And so, you know, I got my license 2008. I actually took off 2 weeks vacation because at the time I knew that I could not do the online thing, you know, cause so they actually, the WRA in Madison, Wisconsin Realtors Association, had 2 week class in person and 8 hours a day and done. And so I took 2 weeks vacation from the sheriff's department. You know, took
actually
the
went.
class. Actually
Actually,
went.
yeah.
Yeah, yep. Went, and I mean, just it was like immersed in, you know, everything into, you know, because I've helped some agents get their license online now, and it's totally different. But I say to them, and you know, of course, with everything going on, they don't have that option right now. But I'd be like, hey, you have to. I knew that I wasn't disciplined at the time. You know, I've been able to obviously do more training now. Got my broker's license, did that all online, but I knew at the time I just want this to happen quick. I want to get my license. So yeah, went in person, got my license, got my real estate. You know, took the state test, got my license, started selling real estate. It was great.
So what did you do? Did you actually like? Did you sign up with a company, or did you just like, hey, I'm going to be an independent broker and just do this for myself?
Yeah. I signed up with a company, Stark. So Stark Company Realtors, Madison-based company. You know, started working with them, and you know, I got. I mean, it was mostly uh, looking back. I mean, man, there were some agents struggling at the time, you know, and so it was really different for me where this was bonus money, this was extra money, this was investment money. I'm already working a job, working overtime. This is great. You know, I get to do a deal and get a couple $1,000 check. I'm like, I don't have to pay the bills with this. I could just put this whole thing in the bank account, you know.
Right.
So I mean, so it was a different mindset, but you know, it wasn't like I was, you know, working my sphere of influence or sending out newsletters or social media. You know,
Right.
I sort of flip phone at the time anyway, but you know, it was great. I mean, I did 6 8 deals a year. I was going to looking at foreclosures myself. Bought a couple of foreclosures. You know, and yeah, the plan was at the time, hey, work this, do 6 8 deals a year, keep up your license, learn, grow, buy investment properties. When you're 50, yeah, you can maybe do real estate full time then. And that was the plan. That was the plan when I started. Um, 5 years, you know, went by. Each year, I'm like doing better and better, and more deals, and you know, some repeat business. You know, I was pretty good, you know, in with the guys in the sheriff's department, like the go-to guy of,
Of
hey, you know,
course.
the new hires, you got to come to me when you
Right.
move into the area if you're looking for a house. So, I mean, I had that built in network. So, you know, still working and um, you know, at some point I moved to a different company. I didn't know much about splits and brokerages and cuts and stuff in the beginning. And, you know, my first choice wasn't making me enough money. So I found a better option that fit and just one that, I mean, because the first company I went at, that's back in the day when you had to do floor time and, you know, answer the phone. in the office, and I'm like, I just worked a night shift. I got to drive into this office and then talk to people. No, that's not for me. I thought that this real estate thing was going to be, on my time, and,
Right.
it's my side gig. And so, yeah, I switched companies, got a much better split, much better opportunity. And then it just really took off. And I'm like, wow, there was, my last year of sheriff's department and real estate. I was close to the same amount of money from each. And I'm like, all right, I'm, because I'll certainly say things changed then for me mentally. I mean, there's some stories that seem fun. I matured, and I'm like, hey, this cop stuff, it is not fun anymore. The only way you're going to get ahead is working overtime and holidays and nights and weekends, because they pay you more to work nights, and they pay you more to work weekends and holidays. And I'm like, no way. I love it. I loved serving. I love being a public servant. I love being a first responder. I loved, coming in and helping in situations. I love saving people's lives. I mean, I have many. I mean, but at some point I'm like, mentally, it was a huge, huge toll on me. I mean, um, everybody warned me. They're like, "Oh, Cory, you're working too much. You're on the SWAT team. You're on the boat patrol. You're on the drug task force. You're working all this overtime. You're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna get burnt out." I'm like, no, I got burnt out. I'm
Yeah.
like, I went from working overtime to be like, okay, how can I get the day off with pay and not have to go in so
Yeah.
I can
Right.
sell real estate? I'm like, I'm taking off, and so instead of taking vacation days and working overtime, I'm taking vacation days and selling real estate. So that was my transition.
Wow.
Uh,
Was there a defining moment where it's just like, I'm done? This is it. What was it? The 2 weeks after the real estate class, or no? You were
no, that
part
went on.
time.
Yeah, that went on
Yeah.
5 years. I did a part
Yeah.
time 5 years. No,
So
it was. I think, and this is the other passion that I have, that I'm going to work. So my whole work philosophy is like, hey, I want to make it, get residual income, and I'm going to go work on my passions. One of them is mission trips. I've been to Haiti and Honduras. I love kids. Love working in orphanages. I'm on the committee for Schools for Haiti. We raise money. We support 12 schools. And my other passion is PTSD officers, military, people that have seen it. And it's not, I guess where I'm going with this, it's not, because we would have these called debriefing incidents. Like, we'd go to a car accident, somebody would die. We'd go to a debrief, talk about our feelings. Nobody ever did. You were scared to say something and scared to say how it was bothering you, and you had to be a tough guy. And it's not the big incidents, it's the stacking. I mean, it is the day in, day out grind of death, destruction, drugs, abused children, people lying to you. I didn't deal with it. I didn't deal with it healthy. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to work overtime, make a bunch of money, buy rental properties, get to 50, retire, and fish or whatever retired people do, golf or
yeah.
something.
Right. No
And
real end plan, but just like, yeah, hustle your butt off, and then yeah, and then
and
you
then
live
I'm just
happily ever
like,
after.
yeah, I'm just like, man, my heart's gone. I straight up depression. Um,
Wow.
yeah, straight up. I can say now, and I'll go into detail at some other point, because this is, I do want to tell this story. This is
No,
such a good
look,
precursor.
this
But
because here, this is what's ultimately the most fulfilling thing is that, like, here you have somebody that hung themselves, you brought them back to life, and all of a sudden they're talking people off the ledge, basically themselves. I think it's the same thing. I think people that here, if they're listening to your story, if they don't hear this, I think that they'd be missing out. I think that this is a passion of yours, especially helping people with PTSD. I mean, that's just something where it's just like you're fighting anxiety, you're fighting, the way that they're perceiving things, and you're really just helping them out. You're reaching down and you're lifting them up, and it's just like, I mean, that's just a beautiful thing. I'd love for you to talk more about it.
yeah, so I'll be raw here. I was suicidal. I I got married. Uh, you know, a few years before I left the sheriff's department. I was working a bunch of hours, 2-step kids. Um, you know, I still had it in my head that it was just about, I was doing it to provide, but I was doing it in the wrong way. I was doing it too much. I was providing for my family, but I was checked out. I was working tons of hours, and I would come home and I'd literally, check out and go to bed. I mean, sometimes I didn't eat dinner, and I absolutely, it stacked up, and I didn't see it coming, and then it got so bad. Um, you know, I contemplated taking my own life uh, with my duty gun. I mean, I sat in my squad one morning, drove to a dead end road, and I had fought with my wife at the time the night before, and I'm like, hey, it's done. I'm done. So um and then, you know I know God had a purpose, and I know that I remember looking, and I was actually at the time, it was in a condominium, subdivision. um I'm down by the boat dock, down by the water, gun in my hand, and some old person walked by with their poodle, and I'm like, okay, I just got to wait a little bit longer because I'm not going to put somebody through that. And it was before I had to work that day. It was before my shift. um because I'd started up my squad, there was actually a there's a tracking device so they could map out where the squads were. They saw that I had activated my squad, and my computer already turned on. And so I'm sitting there with my gun in my hand, waiting for the older person with their poodle to get far enough away. And then the dispatcher calls me on the radio, and gives me a call for service because I was close to it. And kind of, it was enough to, like, hey, snap me out of it. I went into my supervisors, and I'm like, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's where I was at this morning. You know what? Unfortunately, there's a fear to it where they have to. A lot of officers have a fear of saying that because the consequences.
Oh yeah, of course.
The consequences were, I got my gun, my badge, and my squad car taken away, and told to go get help. And that was tough because that was my identity. That was who I was. I wasn't Cory Otto. I was, Otto the deputy. And I knew. I mean, there was, there was help I could have gotten. There was, I ended up taking 10 weeks off, and I got some counseling, and I had to get to the point where I was cleared to go back, and I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go back. And so it wasn't like, the cake, the balloons, the hey, thanks for your years of service. It was, um, hey, Cory went out. He went on family medical leave. He never came back. Um, you know, there's days where I feel like, hey, I wimped out. I didn't power through. Um, but I also knew the damage that it had caused was going to take more than 10 weeks to fix. And, it's still taking years to fix, but I knew I couldn't fix that. I knew I couldn't fix the depression when I still had all the negativity coming in at the same time. You can't fix depression when the water's still dumping on you.
Right.
So
Especially when it was a slow, like a long, slow bleed type of a thing. It was just, I mean, it's slow stacking is what
yeah.
you were saying. I have to ask a follow-up question on the call for service that you got when you were at the dead end load by the dock. Do you remember what the call was?
Yeah, it was so silly. So as we were county deputies, and when a car hits a deer and it doesn't die, we have to shoot it, and that's all it was. The odd part was, I got the gun in my hand already. I had a plan that morning, and instead of shooting myself, I had to go shoot a deer. And yeah, that's the call, sticks in my mind. And it was something, it was just something that was enough to snap me out of it. I don't even know if the dispatcher that I'm talking about knows the story. It certainly wasn't common what she did, because um, there, we could have certainly been out there, in the winter, starting up your squad, warming it up. So for the fact that I'm not officially on duty, but that she was able to recognize that I was in my squad car, and that I was close to the incident, and I could go dispatch a deer and instead of myself. You know, I'm grateful. She doesn't know it, but I'm grateful.
Boy, that would be a really good phone call to make. Hey,
I,
what is her name?
yeah, I'll just make the phone call, and I'll make the phone call first. It has been something I've been wanting to do, so
This
I'll
would be
make the
cool
phone
to it would be cool to it would be really cool to share that with her. That's really
call.
neat.
Hmm.
Well, so that's the end, and then you start going all in on real estate. I mean, that's just like, and you're already doing it, so it's not even that hard of a transition, and
Right.
you just started to go 100% at it. I mean, what a ride, my goodness.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what it was. It's where, law enforcement, and I think that's why I left, because I'm not a like 70% guy. I'm not I'm just going to ride this out to retirement, come in, work my regular shifts, do the minimum. And, at the time, late 30s, I had 11 years left till retirement. It just was like, Cory, you can't do 11 more years of that. You cannot do 11 more years of that.
Yeah.
Um, the real estate's going well. You love people. You love helping people. You love solving problems. I had a business mindset, um, and that's just, I'm like, this is great. I mean, it wasn't all uphill from there, but I mean, looking back to you know realize where I was, and that it was, leaving something that I loved. I mean, there's days where I regret it. I mean, I hear sirens, or there's this cop pulled over in a traffic stop, or somebody down the street doing something. I'm like, I was at my office downtown, last summer, and there's a bar fight, and I knew the officers. I went out there, and he's by himself. I'm like, hey, you want some help? He's like, yeah, cuff that guy up for me. And I'm like, okay, let me know when you want to sell your house. So,
My goodness. Well, that's
um,
great. I mean, it's at least easy to transition at that point to go all in to real estate, because not most people start at like, just a lot of people have just cold turkey, just 100%.
yeah,
Well, hope this
right.
works out. But I mean, you already had it kind of established.
I did, to an extent. It's certainly different when it's your side hustle, and when it's paying your bills. You
Right.
have to have a different mindset. Uh,
Yes.
when I was working as a deputy full time, and if I missed a phone call, or couldn't make an appointment, or wasn't available when the client wanted me to, it wasn't as big a deal. I was mostly dealing with family and friends, and they understood I was able to say, hey, I got a full-time job here. They knew that. But now it's, you have to be available. I mean, I went from being on call at the sheriff's department, for almost 20 years of my life. And yeah, real estate's the same thing. I mean, your phone rings at 10 o'clock at night, or it rings at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you got to wake up, or put your game face on and solve a problem. Bless you. Good mute.
Thank you. I know. Good mute. Good
Should
definition.
have said good mute, because then you wouldn't even known.
No, that's funny. Well, 100%. And I love how you relate the two together, because it's almost the same job in some ways. I mean, and basically, you're talking people off the ledge, off their
Right.
emotional edge, pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
You're a lot of times telling people what they don't want to hear, or what they want to do, and you're directing them through something that's complicated and tough, that involves lots of failure, that a lot of times doesn't work out. And I mean, it's it's such a perfect. It's what great schooling
Yeah.
for what we do.
Yeah, there's times where, because I have other agents on my team. I love teaching new agents. I love helping them grow, and they come and they get excited about, the first hiccup that happens, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal. I'm like, nothing's a big deal.
Like
Not,
I know, right? Like we've had 10 of those this month. Like whatever,
right.
we'll just quick handle
And
that.
in the beginning, when I left the sheriff's department doing real estate full time, I'm like, this isn't life threatening. This isn't, there's nobody's life at stake here.
Right.
We can just take a deep breath and come up with a plan, and we'll get this figured out. And
We
we
will
do.
we will solve this problem. We will get it done 100%. Well, Cory, I want to be super respectful of your time, and I have a couple questions that I ask everybody, and I'm going to go right through them. So first is, do you ever feel like you had a big break?
um, no, not like people think of a big break. I can look back and say, my favorite word is just the pivot, or the concept. It's more than a word to me, just to be able to pivot, and thankfulness that, you know yeah, do I have some awful memories of death and destruction and crap, from being a cop for almost 20 years? Absolutely. But I also have the success stories, and I wouldn't change it. I know that I'd get help sooner. I would listen to people when they said, "Hey, you're working too much overtime. Take a break. Your mental health is important." When people said mental health, I'm like, we just blew it off. You
Right.
know, hey, we don't have time for our mental health. We have a job to do. We're not the crazies. We deal with the crazies. Well, I didn't deal with my crazy, and didn't deal with it when it was small. It's just the huge, snowball effect, and it got bad, and it got to where the only fix was to be done.
Right.
So the
And
big
and
break.
look, no, go, you finish.
The big break part is truly when I was 14 years old, long hair, tinted glasses, AC/DC t-shirt, telling my mom I'm not going to go to school, that Brian and Jed, the officers that worked at the Wisconsin Dells Police Department, they were a father figure to me. They held me accountable. They got me excited about law enforcement and serving, enough that then I wanted to go to school and get better grades, because there was times I didn't. There was times where I fell behind, and they're like, "Hey, you're on the bench. Get your grades up, and you can come back." So lucky break. Yeah, it was a lucky break because God put two people in my life that cared about me. Saw a long-haired 14-year-old kid headed for destruction, and cared enough to invest in me. So that was my lucky break. One of them, anyway.
Love it. Jed Seidel and Brian Landry, and
Lander.
Man, I gotta say, and the person that called and gave the dispatch call at the end of the street, I love it. Was there ever a time you thought about giving up? I can't even ask that question with a straight face. I can't answer with a straight face. But
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, I, if any, I think that I also like to do the PSA while I'm doing this. I did not expect to be having this conversation with you today, but I can't go without saying, listen, if you're struggling, if your marriage is struggling, if you have depression, if you have an alcohol or drug issue, find somebody. I mean, I'm grateful that, I mean, it wasn't handled properly. I've been able to tell them that sense. I've been able to share that with the current administration, to be like, you guys are not dealing with officers' mental health properly. So, um, you know, public service announcement, just trust in somebody. The crazy thing is if more people share their feelings with somebody they trust, as you share your feelings, and your struggles, you're going to find another person that has similar struggles, and then you guys can help each other out. So I've learned that. I mean, that's why today hey, do I love sharing it where I was in the dark times of that? But if it's going to, give somebody the hope and the courage to talk to somebody, talk to me, talk to, pastor, talk to a counselor, to save a life. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've physically saved a life before, and there was more than one. And, but to be able to say, hey, you can save a life with your words and your actions too. It doesn't have to be running into a burning building or, helping somebody off the ledge, but you just listen. I mean, you can pick up on it. Anybody can, um, as far as when somebody's struggling, what they're going through. And don't just ask once. Everybody's gonna, hey, how's it going? Yep, great, fine, thank you. I mean, if you're worried about somebody, just ask them. Everybody's afraid that they're going to, put the idea in somebody's head if it's not there, or drive them over the edge by talking about it, or the embarrassment. When you're holding that baggage and that weight inside of you by yourself, all you want to do is let it out. All you want to do is share it, and for that other person to be like, it's okay, brother, I'm glad you're shared, you're important, uh, you matter, um, what's going to help you, let's find some help.
That's just so raw and so real. I love it. I mean, you have to really just put your heart out there for people to just lean on. But I feel like if you also just share it and just talk about it out loud, there could almost be nobody there. I mean, I don't think it works unless there is, but like they don't even have to really understand. But just by saying it out loud, I think a lot of times is helpful. But maybe I'm off base. But
Yeah, I mean, just it when you leave it inside, it spirals, it grows. It's a disease. It's a you know it's a sickness. I mean, it's not any different than if you don't take care of yourself physically, and or you have a cold and you don't take care of it. If you don't take care of your mental health, it will get worse. Nothing fixes it. Time doesn't fix it. You know, you need to deal with it. So that's, I mean, I was in denial for years. I mean, it wasn't just like one day, okay, I had a fight with my wife. I don't want to live anymore. It was the, you know, constant stuff that I wasn't dealing with. I wasn't being honest with. I wasn't talking to anybody else about, with. I mean, um, so yeah, talk to somebody.
no, brother, that's great. I that's just real and raw. And I know that someone's going to take a lot from that. If you were to do it all over again, Cory, what would you change?
I think that, I would listen to. So it's funny because now that I'm even saying this, I remember at one point I said, hey, when I was a brand new jailer, I was looking up to people that had more experience than me, that were, that I would learn from them. I, I think if another officer that was there longer than me, superior to me, would have come to me and said, listen, we see the warning signs. Uh, we're not just going to keep saying, hey, stop working overtime, or stop working so much, or stop taking on so much. Somebody would have come to me, an officer, because I know there was some. And I know there were other officers that were struggling. So if people would have come to me and said, hey, I'm struggling, are you struggling too? I mean, it's that simple of a question. Hey, I've struggled with something. Have you struggled with anything? Let's talk about it. But we were tough. I think that there was um, you had to be tough, because it became, I gave death notifications. I held, you know, dead babies in my arms. I held child abused children. So you have to get tough, to be the strong person for everybody else around you at the time, but they have to teach you that transition from, okay, being tough and in control when you're in the midst of a crisis, and somebody needs to be in charge and somebody needs to be strong, to, okay, how do you change that, um, to to get that back. So you just become so tough and callous that you do that to protect you. So, if I had to change something, yeah, I would have been like, shared my feelings early on. They just didn't come out of nowhere. They just didn't. I mean, I saw them building up. I I knew they were coming. I thought I could handle it. Um, so my if I could do it all over again, yeah, I would say something to somebody sooner. I would have real conversation. I'm not scared to have real conversations now.
Well, for
Uh,
sure.
and
Is the transition that you talk about, the transition from going hard callous police officer to you come home to be with family and be like, family man, and be a dad and play with your
yeah,
kid?
yeah.
Is that
There was no, it wasn't taught how to do that. I mean, I literally, because there's, city police and county deputies primarily can take their squad cars home. You get in your squad, that's how you start your shift. You drive home, you park your squad in your yard. I would literally be, doing CPR on somebody. They would die. It was the end of my shift. I would drive 3 minutes and be home and have a wife and my two stepdaughters, and I just, like, it was like, hey, I can't talk right now. No, I don't want to see your homework. No, I don't care what you make for supper. I got to go to the bedroom and shut the lights off and, you know, cry by myself, or work through this by myself, where, yeah, that needs to be worked on. That needs to be taught. And it can't be about, okay, only the major things affect you. Um, who knows what's going to affect a person? And so, yeah, it just, that transition of, um, being able to communicate your feelings with somebody, be honest with somebody, not be, I mean, I was scared. I was scared of the consequences. I was scared of the consequences to talk to my wife. I was scared of the consequences to talk to my supervisors. I was scared of not looking like a strong officer that can handle anything in front of my supervisors or fellow officers. And, you know, it was the big elephant in the room. It was, because I know now that I wasn't the only one. And but all of us were, nobody wanted to talk about it, because if you talk about it, it's real. If you ignore it, maybe it'll go away.
you're just
Maybe,
swallowing it? You're just
yeah.
adding to the weight inside of you that you're holding, but whatever, you're already holding it. So I mean, man, I think everybody struggles with this anyway, in a small way. It's hard to go from even our jobs to home life, just because it's so chaotic and nonstop. I, how do you? I guess there's a lot of people in our fields that listen to this. How do you transition that skill to real estate, or
I
have you
still
figured it
don't
out
do
yet?
that. So, I'm single. I I don't, I don't have a family. I got divorced, so I don't even get to see my stepdaughters anymore. Um, and I definitely know that you need to, because there's days where it clicks in my head. I'm like, oh, Cory, same pattern as before. You can't do every deal. You can't answer every phone call. You have to learn how to delegate. You have to learn how to trust people. You have to learn how to trust your admins. You have to pass stuff on when you're too busy. I struggle with that still. There's just something about me that I can't let a deal go. I can't miss a phone call. Um, but and it used to be, and maybe you can attest this too. It used to be like, okay, we just got to work hard 9 months out of the year. Then November, December, January, it's going to slow down in Wisconsin. We can take a break. We'll get recharged. We'll take a long vacation. We'll be all better for the spring season again. So in your head, you just go, okay, keep pushing through, keep pushing through. The down season hasn't come.
It never comes. It's
No,
all.
it
It really
doesn't.
never does. November and December and January, especially in these years,
Right.
especially these like record months. But I
Oh,
mean, but it honestly, it's always been, even in down years for me. It's like if you're hustling, you're going to keep on being busy and busy and busy and busy.
but
And you're right.
yeah, my new plan, and I know I have to do it. So, I love the company I'm with. I love EXP. I'm to the point now where it's a little bit of the baton passing that's going to happen piece by piece. The next step is, keep growing my team, be around people that I love to work with, be around other agents that I love to trust, grow my team, and I'm going to give other agents that hand up that I've gotten in my life before, and walk alongside them if they're willing to put the work into it. I'm willing to help grow them, and that's the next step. That's going to be my break. And I don't like to relax. My plan was, and it just because of COVID, it didn't happen. My plan's going to be, I want to take a month off and go back to Haiti or go back to Honduras and serve. I'm not the guy that wants to sit on the beach and watch the waves and get a tan. So
Burn,
right,
burn,
burn. Yeah, look at my
burn.
face. But you know, yeah. If I could tan, I would do it. But I just burn, and I got blonde hair, and uh,
You're a
so
lumberjack.
right, right. So I think that because I don't like downtime, and I know that comes from what I've been through. I can't stand silence. I literally have noise machines, sound stuff, all the time. I can't stand downtime. I can't stand silence. I have
You're
to
always
keep
working.
so yeah,
Well,
that's
look, so in
my
this section,
plan.
this is a great transition into my next question. So like, look, you're finally at the point where you are doing this, you are growing the team, and all of the struggles that you have are the same struggles that everybody's starting their own team and growing their own team and modifying their own team. And like everybody has these same struggles, but to get to the point where you do have the struggles is a different thing. And I guess if you were to speak to the person that's just starting out, or maybe like, maybe had a similar upbringing, they were in a trailer apartment with plastic over the windows or whatever, had struggled with PTSD, were police officers, to that person, what advice would you give to anyone looking to get it done?
Yeah, the first one is I planned for it. I didn't know I was planning for it. I was planning for it by uh, doing real estate, having money in the bank, having already bought some foreclosures, having some equity in those. Um, so I know that there's people currently in my situation that can't do it financially and make that change, to make that transition from whatever job they have that they don't like to whatever they want to do. So my first advice is, even if you don't know what you want to do and when you want to do it, start planning financially for that. Similar to just somebody that I give my clients same advice. Hey, you want to buy a house? Okay, 6 months from now, okay, here's what you got to do to check your credit, get your debt paid off, get your debt paid down, save a little bit of money. So I think that's for anybody that wants to get into real estate or entrepreneur ship or any type of sales or commission based business, that the first thing you have to do is be smart financially with your own money. Get yourself in a position where you don't have to panic, because there was down stuff. There was times where I had more money going out in marketing than I had coming in, and you can't stop it at that time. You have to keep
I know.
doing that. It's tough. So the first advice for anybody is just to prepare yourself financially, personal finances, see where you can make your cuts, see what you can give up, see what you can, live without, and just your personal budget to have a savings plan, so that when you do come across an obstacle, you can plow through it instead of being like, okay, because I've seen agents that have started are like, oh, the money's not coming in this month. I got to go get a part-time job bartending. And then the next thing you know, they're bartending, and then they're not, prospecting or dealing with their clients. And then they're like, okay, now real estate's not going well because yeah, you have a part-time job. This needs to be, you need to be committed. You need to be full-time. So, personal finances, 1A or 1A, B, find somebody that is better than you. I mean, I know they say that in books, and it didn't really make sense to me. That's what I love about EXP is I have a network of agents throughout the whole United States and world now, starting literally, opened up in 6 or 8 countries. So, I mean, I can call up an agent in Phoenix, Arizona right now and talk through a problem with them, and they'll give me advice and ideas and help me through something, because I'm not competing with them. They're not selling
Right.
houses next to me. They want to help other people succeed. So I've talked to, and I make it so part of EXP right now, it's called the icon status. So after you cap out, you do 20 other more deals, then you're an icon and you get stock awards. And part of that culture then is I have to interview 10 top performers from EXP and learn about them and how they got where they're at. So for the last 6 months, once a month, I schedule an appointment with a top performer somewhere in the United States, and we have an hour or 2 conversation, and I learn from them. So I just, you have to find somebody that, because it's tough to figure out. I mean, I sat down with the agent the other day, he's getting on Facebook and he's like, oh, I want to do some Facebook advertising. And I start to help him through. He's like, oh no, I got it. So then I pulled up my Facebook account going back about 7 years, and the ad spend was 16,000. And I said, hey, do you want to figure this out yourself, or do you want to spend 16,000 on how to figure out Facebook advertising like I did? I wasted a lot of money. I wasn't getting results. I thought I knew what I was doing. I was throwing it here, throwing it there. So don't think you know everything. Learn from somebody else's mistakes. I know our parents told us this. I know it's like what people say, learn from my mistake. But seriously, I wasted marketing money. If you want to market, if you want ideas, come talk to me first. I've tried it. I've wasted money on some stuff.
Right.
If it's good, I'll tell you to go for it. If it's not, learn from me. Don't waste your own money. I already did that.
Brother, that's a great answer. I mean, here, be financially smart and be around people that are better than you.
Right. Yeah. That's what it is. And people that want to, it has to be somebody that has the personality that they just don't want to succeed. Because, I've made it to, I've made some financial goals. I've met those goals. You just can't keep raising your financial goals and meeting them. So at some point it becomes more about, or less about financial goals and more about like legacy type goals and who you can pass the baton on to and who you can build up to, keep things going. So find somebody that's not overly focused on just making financial goals and is focused on helping other people make their goals. And that's where it's at. So if you find somebody that wants to see you successful just as much as, or wants to see you succeed just as much as you want to succeed. But don't waste their time either. Don't think you can just go to somebody, call them up, and that they're gonna give you some big break and you're gonna be able to be just like them. You have to put in the effort.
Yeah, that's put differently. You have to put in the work. You have to do the work. You have to.
Right.
There's the plans. There's the scripts. There's the grand master plans. That everybody talks about. But you still got to do the pieces. You got to do the little parts. You got to put in the work. And a lot of times people don't understand that. But that's why you need somebody that's been doing it, that's learned all the hard ways, and to coach you to do it. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I want to especially thank Cory Otto for coming on. And Cory, if people want to connect with you, where is the best place that they could connect?
Yeah, so you can either just, Cory Otto, eXp Realty, Cory.otto@exprealty.com is my email. Find me on Facebook. So I have a personal page. So it's Cory, Cory, Otto, Otto. My business page, Cory Otto Realty, eXp. Actually, you think I would have done that, but
we're gonna put links in the
right.
in the podcast notes as well. But yeah, if you search Cory, Cory, Otto, eXp, you're gonna get them. And all right, that's been beautiful. So this has been the Get It Done podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the show, please do us a favor, tell a friend, write us a 5-star review, hit that subscribe button. All those things help make us a huge difference in helping us reach more people. Once again, I'm Jimi Ryan. Thank you so much for listening. Many more stories on the way.